feature presentation.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to another Untitled Movie Review. I am one of your hosts, Matt Rohrbeck, alongside, he's allergic to tomatoes, but he is Tomato Meter approved, Eric Merchant.
Matt, we're talking TIFF still.
Still, baby, still. Yes, we're still reviewing TIFF films. We put out a lot of stuff during the festival, which you guys can go check out on YouTube or podcast services, Untitled Movie Reviews. But yeah, we decided that we would save some of them for their release, like with Lila Neugebauer's Causeway, which we are reviewing today. Eric, how are you?
I'm good, Matt. I'm good. And again, like there's still plenty more to come when it's related to the TIFF releases. So you'll be seeing a decision to leave review coming up soon, even though it is already playing. We're going to hopefully have a special guest for that one. And then, we've got some stuff that I also still need to catch up on, like the menu, and we'll have a review for that. So, if you're sick of TIFF, well, it's not going to end anytime soon.
We might be the 8th best movie podcast in Canada, but we're the number one Canadian TIFF podcast. I'll put that out there. That's
I
not
mean, it
official
feels
anywhere,
like we are
but
the longest running for TIFF 2022, at
oh,
least.
that's something. The movie stars Jennifer Lawrence and Brian Tyree Henry. It is now available to stream on Apple TV Plus. Eric, you want to
Yes.
get it going? What is Causeway?
Yeah, so Causeway stars Jennifer Lawrence as a wounded vet named Lindsay who returns from Afghanistan and goes through rehabilitation and physio to soon then reintegrate into society and head home to New Orleans, where she's confronting not only the head trauma she sustained while in Afghanistan, and trying to re-enlist and get the doctor that's the neurologist who's looking after her to sign off on a paper played by Stephen McKinley Henderson, but also confronting past trauma with, growing up in a dysfunctional household with a mother who was irresponsible and never there, played by Linda Emond. And from there, we kind of strike up this unlikely friendship between her and Brian Tyree Henry, who plays an auto shop owner, and sort of they share in their own personal pains and truths, but also are slowly opening up to each other in a way that is never quirky or kitschy in any way, but is very genuine. This whole movie, and including Jennifer Lawrence's performance, is very low key. It's stripped down, it's sparse. A lot of the movie does feel lived in a way that, a lot of productions that are shot in New Orleans, because the majority of the movie does take place there, it doesn't feel like a tourist shot movie.
No,
Like, it
not at
feels
all.
very
Yeah.
much like it has integrated into the community. And walking away from the film, it is a great directorial debut. Lila Neugebauer started in the theater. This is her first feature-length film as a director. It doesn't feel stagey either. Like, it just kind of, again, is in the moment. And I think that's one of the strongest aspects of both the script and the film in general, is that we are completely present in Lindsay's journey in the moment we meet her to the end of the film, and there's never any flashbacks or moments of recollection to what happened in Afghanistan or in her past.
It's very
We
restrained when it comes to kind of the war aspect
Yeah, we
and
are
that stuff.
experiencing everything through her in present time, and I think that does go a long way. There's some stuff in there with, like, her becoming a pool cleaner that feels a little bit kind of, like, again, on the nose or quirky, because she used to work for, or like when she was in the Army Corps, she worked in water systems specifically, so it's like, okay, well, let's give her a job that's
Well, she
kind of
knows how to clean
adjacent.
pools. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that, where, but other than that, like, I think the strongest aspect here, and a reminder of how great Jennifer Lawrence
It's
is as an
exactly what I was gonna
actor.
say. Yeah. I'll echo everything that you're saying. Yeah, I think that's what stood out to me most was that Jennifer Lawrence is excellent in this movie. From the opening moments, which hit me way harder, than I thought they would. Is it a little emotionally manipulative? Yeah, but, like, it worked. It absolutely worked. I think those first few moments of the movie, and her performance are powerful, and I think that kind of continues throughout her rehabilitation throughout the movie. And I think her relationship with James, Brian Tyree Henry's character, I think felt authentic and genuine. And I liked that kind of, even though it's about very, important and awful things that people, deal with, coming back from the war and stuff like that. But it just did have this like kind of low key, kind of subtle vibe to the whole thing where, yeah, it was just a reminder that Jennifer Lawrence is a great actor. That, I feel like she did step away for a little while, and I feel like I haven't seen her in that much, maybe since Red Sparrow. Right? Is this the first thing she's done since Red Sparrow?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
she's had some stuff that's come out. Well, no, well, Don't Look Up is the Adam
Oh God,
McKay
yeah, I
movie, right?
forgot. Yeah.
But a lot. So this is an interesting side as well, because this movie shot back in 2019 and
Oh
has
wow.
been in development for a while in post. And it was originally the title, or the original title was Red, White, and Water. So I wonder if it was a film that was kind of finding its voice in post production, and a lot of the stuff that is very kind of cliched in these melodramatic,
Like
almost.
PTSD movies and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, like if that kind of was taken out of the film, because you never, like you mentioned that there's an emotional kind of maybe manipulation there, but I honestly feel that it for the most part avoids
I agree.
sort of
I just thought
going
those
down that
opening
path.
moments,
Yeah,
those
but the
opening
way we
moments are
see
a
her in
lot.
that first scene though as well is really
Is
interesting,
really,
because she's
yeah.
framed from a point of view that's not necessarily her back to the camera, but we see only a part of her face as
Yeah.
she's waiting for Jane Hootie Shell's nurse character to come and pick her
Shout out
up,
to Jane Hootie Shell too.
who's also
Just
in those opening sequences is
just
compassionate and
fantastic.
kind, and brings a general kind of realism to the proceedings. And again, another kind of theater actor, Broadway actor who was recently in The Humans, you know
Shout out to the humans as well.
gives a wonderful performance there, and it complements Lawrence, who you see somebody at their most vulnerable. um
Exactly the word I was going to use.
yeah, and it's just one of those movies where it is a character piece. It's a reminder that Lawrence, I think this is Jennifer Lawrence's best performance since Winter's Bone, and it's not to say that she hasn't been great in movies like Darren Aronofsky's Mother or Silver Linings Playbook, which she won the Oscar for. But you look at her filmography, and for every really great role, she's also been put into that Hollywood system of being a movie star. She is a movie
Yeah.
star. She's an
Yeah.
amazing
Hunger Games, X-Men.
and that's what
Yeah.
kind of dilutes like that filmography a little bit. And you need a film like this to remind you of how amazing she is in terms of being so, again, present in the character she's playing, and also breathing and giving time to really develop as this character. And you're watching this and you realize how amazing she is as an actor. And then Brian Tyree Henry matches
Who's
that.
also great. Yeah.
He's in my notes I wrote monologue king. He's
Yeah.
one of those guys that can extrapolate, internalize monologues, whether it be if Beale Street Could Talk, or this, in a way that's never maudlin, and you never feel sorry for the character, even though you do empathize with him and with Lindsay. But again, like you look at how he's playing somebody that is an amputee, and you worry that, okay, well, is an able-bodied performer going to you know be melodramatic
Yeah.
or over the
Overboard.
top?
Yeah. Yeah.
He never does. And
No.
I think it is
Even how they treat that is very kind of not subtle, but like the way that they talk about it, I feel like
it's sincere.
yeah, sincere is a good word. Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
And I love one of the greatest production designers ever, Jack Fisk, who's worked with people like Terrence Malick and David Lynch. And if you've seen Eraserhead, he's the man from the other planet at the beginning of Eraserhead.
Incredible. The
Worked
house in this?
on
Is that
this.
what
Yeah,
you're
and the house
Yeah.
is, I mean, it's cliche to say this, but the house does feel like a character, or at least it
Yeah.
feels like it has the memories that Lawrence and Emond are sharing between the two of them. And you really do feel kind of this weird hostility and room for reconciliation, but you're never quite sure if if that is going to happen. And sometimes, you know, the best thing to do, this is a great self-care movie, I think, is what I'm coming to, is that you can't always run away from yourself. You have to
Yeah.
kind of face yourself both in the past and present. And this is what a movie like Causeway does, is that it's taking this character who, you know, wants to go back into, you know, re-enlist and escape herself, but it's time to kind of go back to who she is as a
Yeah.
person and
Face the
really,
facts. Yeah.
you know, work on herself.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think Lawrence does a great job, and Lindsay is a a captivating character throughout the whole thing, from those opening moments to this kind of weird relationship, not weird, but just interesting relationship she starts with James, and throughout the whole thing, it was just like it might be one of those movies that does feel a little too subtle to people, like that. I think that's maybe why you know people might not pay attention to the performance or to the movie. And I think that's kind of unfortunate because I think there is a pretty solid little movie in this. I guess that's the only thing that I worry about is like even me while watching is just like, oh, it's kind of so low key that like
It's too
did you
subtle for its own good.
yeah, where like did you need to add there are dramatic beats, don't get me wrong. There are those kind of things you would expect in a movie like this, but the way that they're executed, I feel like isn't necessarily too subtle for its own good, but I could see if people perceive it that way because I liked the vibe of the whole thing. I liked just kind of hanging out. I loved seeing her rehab in that opening act of the movie and leading into how she's getting back into everyday life, but also trying to get back into after such like a devastating injury. How she connects with James and how they juxtapose their two stories. And you mentioned Brian Tyree Henry as a monologue king. Yeah, there's a great moment at the pool, right? While they're
No, no,
swimming in a pool,
it's when
or
they're having beers and they're sitting
yeah, I thought
at
that was
no, 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 it's like at a bus stop park
oh yeah,
bench.
like a park kind of
Yeah.
thing, right? Like
And they're
yeah,
sharing,
okay.
like, they have like
So there's
that plastic bag of
yeah,
beers.
which
Yeah.
is great. I love that. Like all that stuff is that lived in kind of vibe. Like people who live like in these, whether it's a big city, small town, kind of, you're out with a new friend and the weather's nice. So you're outside. And, but there's also a moment when there's multiple moments, I guess, when they have really great kind of, it's just a great, uh, sort of platonic relationship shown in movies. But
And as a
like,
two-hander,
yeah,
I think it really works and it develops in a way, again, where it's kind of it's spontaneous and in the moment, and we keep saying, you know, present in the moment, but this is kind of that movie, but it never feels false. And it's interesting that, again, you have a lot of theater actors, you have a theater director. It feels like it's just been completely stripped of that. Like even the score is sparingly used and only used in some key moments, and when it's applied, it never feels manipulative. I mean, there's even this one shot I keep thinking about where Lawrence is sitting on the table waiting for the doctor to come in, and then she has that monologue with him and starts talking about like why she wants to go back and how she's actually feeling and not just, you know, telling him what he wants to hear.
yeah.
And the way that the camera moves in, like, it is your classic kind of like, oh, it's your Oscar clip moment, but it again, it steers clear of a lot of that. It's almost like it's just waiting to kind of move along with Lawrence, and it's completely in sync with her as a performer. And it still is a performance-driven movie and a character study, but at the same time, it's also it's it's organic. Like, it doesn't feel like you're watching something that has been, you know, put together for awards consideration. Like, it just lives and breathes on its own, you know, story,
I
and
think
its performance at the center.
And that's the perfect way of describing that kind of too subtle for its own good that we just talked about. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like it's necessarily trying for those things. I hope it maybe gets some recognition or some people at
I
least
think Brian
giving it a
Tyree Henry
shot.
got a Gotham
Um,
nomination for
great.
supporting a person. Yeah.
Cause it, and I think that is a testament to how good Jennifer Lawrence is in the movie, because I feel like a lot of times we talk about how these, especially you mentioned, she is a movie star. She is a big name, like movie star. So to do kind of a subtle role like this, it's sometimes hard to lose the movie star, right? Like,
Or
we
we
talk
forget
about
that the movie star started as an actor.
that's
Like,
true. Yeah.
you know, like with Winter's Bone, that performance as kind of almost like a would-be detective, in the Ozark, is such a great performance from the point of view of both an actor, but also showing like, oh, this person has something. And I feel that once they go through the Hollywood system after a while, this happens with every like kind of big movie star, you get the overexposure, you get the
Mhm.
kind of fatigue a little bit, and you kind of lose sight of
And
what you came to love about them. And even them,
yeah,
like, I mean, there's a great article in the New York Times that Kyle Buchanan wrote, that's an interview with Jennifer Lawrence, of who is Jennifer Lawrence now, where she kind of talks about kind of like looking for projects that are more character focused, and wanting to work with filmmakers that have more of a perspective than just simply franchise movies or studio
yeah, to
films.
make movie money and things like that. And yeah, going back to my point is like, yeah, once a person becomes that, it's hard to kind of lose yourself in a role sometimes, right? Like even someone I really love, like in Fablemans, like Seth Rogen, who I think Seth Rogen is genuinely good in the Fablemans and in many movies. But a lot of the times you see Seth Rogen, he can't escape his laugh, or and maybe he's not the best example, but there are
John,
other
you know who I'm
movie,
thinking of like right now is
yeah,
Jonathan Majors. So
yeah,
Jonathan Majors is a guy that's, had these bit roles in movies like White Boy Rick, and then he
great,
makes this
great
huge
actor, yeah.
he makes this huge splash on the indie scene with The Last Black Man in San Francisco, and that performance is incredible. It was one of the best of the year, and people started paying attention. Now we're seeing him being integrated into the Marvel universe
Yeah,
as Kang.
Rocky.
We're also seeing him do more studio films with Creed 3 and Devotion, and it kind of feels like, actors do become commodities in a way, where it's like, okay, well, they're hot right now because they've just been nominated for an Oscar, or they've been critically acclaimed for this role, so let's pick them up and put them in this. It's the same thing with
Totally.
filmmakers.
That's cool and totally normal,
But
yeah.
it does, but you do get a sense where it's like, oh, I would really like to see, Jennifer Lawrence or Jonathan Majors. I'd like to see them work together. That'd be awesome. But
Oh,
like,
yeah,
but you'd like to see work that truly captivates them as they captivate
and
you.
I agree with that. I think we're talking about 2 different things sort of, but, like, I do absolutely agree with that. I guess I just mean, like, a more larger than life personality where you see the person more than the actor, and I guess great
Oh,
actors, you can lose yourself in great roles, and Jennifer Lawrence proves that here, but I'm even
Tom
saying,
Cruise would
like,
be like someone like
yeah,
that, right? Where
right,
it's like
yeah.
it's Tom Cruise.
Exactly. Someone
Yeah.
who's on, and I think Jennifer Lawrence was at that level at one moment, right? Like when now a little distance from Dark Phoenix and Red Sparrow and, sure, Don't Look Up and stuff like that. That was her kind of comeback movie, and now this, but not that it was even that many years. I think Dark Phoenix was
But
what,
as a but as a
2019, but
lead
like,
as a
yeah,
lead in a film, because you look at the X-Men movies and you look at even Don't Look Up, the Adam McKay film,
ensembles,
those are
yeah.
ensemble films. So it's easy to forget that, like, because the first person you think of in Don't Look Up is DiCaprio. And
Yeah.
and both of those actors are big movie stars. Again, talking about a person that maybe doesn't always disappear into the role, that you see the movie star before the character.
Actually, yeah. So I think you do lose yourself and see Lindsay and not Jennifer Lawrence, which I think is impressive. That's, I guess, the long way around to get to the point that I was making.
Yeah.
But the movie is great. I think it is, its subtleness, I think, works. It never goes overboard. While I said like those opening moments are incredibly emotional, I guess they do play with your feelings a little bit, is what I meant. Like, but that is an intentional thing.
But
I
it could have been
don't.
even more so. Like, I
Yeah.
think that
Like
that's
you said, with the music and flashbacks and all of that stuff could have added to that manipulation, where it is this kind of raw performance in the first act of the movie that really got me, like really, really hit me. Like, and I wasn't expecting it to. And then I went, oh shit. And it was that kind of reminder how great Jennifer Lawrence is. And then when you add Brian Tyree Henry, who's just like always a pleasure to see him pop up and stuff. And then he's always crushes it. And
Yeah, and you
um,
sprinkle other really great character actors in
yeah,
there, and
it ends up being
again,
a,
Jane Houdyshell, who's only in a couple of
yeah.
scenes, but like, she makes them count, and you see somebody, you see a character that you could follow in their own movie, and
Absolutely.
yeah.
And I know she doesn't do many films, right? Like, or she hasn't,
Well,
like,
she pops up here and there, and I mean, like any character actor, it
yeah.
just depends on the production, it just depends on the work,
But
but she's
again,
a
another
theater
person
actor.
with the humans in this, I don't, she just reminds me of my mom
And
kind of
Little
anytime I see
Women
her.
as well, the
Yeah,
Greta Gerwig
right.
version.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. So anyways, I liked the movie quite a bit. I'm gonna give it a 3.5. I liked it.
I'm also going to give it a 3.5.
Cool. Um, Go check it out. It is streaming on Apple TV Plus right now for you guys. Which Apple TV Plus, what was I thinking of the other day? Oh, Severance. I'm pumped for that
Oh,
we were
Severance
talking
season
about.
2 because they announced
Yeah.
casting, right?
Yeah, which we talked a little bit about on the last episode of the Untitled Movie Podcast. We didn't really go into huge detail of that, but I'm sure we will leading into Severance season 2. I'm just thinking of other Apple stuff now because
Well,
Causeway,
the After Party
like,
too, right? Is
oh
is
yeah,
is is going into production. So
we've
those
always talked about how it's kind of one of the more underrated streaming services. Like they still like there's a lot of stuff where I'm like, oh yeah, I need to catch up with that, or I go, oh, this is it's just not one that I feel like is on the top of people's like list all the time, but there's always like they kind of put stuff out there that's consistently solid.
Yeah, I mean,
So
they
I
were
always
known
appreciate
as
it.
kind of like as they were getting into series, like every streamer as they start has like the one show that kind of, pops. And for them, I think it was Ted Lasso in a lot of ways. But now they've found, quite a nice kind of eclectic grouping of series, and there's a bunch of stuff that we haven't even talked about or even seen that like I would like to watch Pachinko, and I think that like that would be
Hmm.
a show that like again, has such an amazing cast and crew behind it. So there's that, but then yeah, you look at Severance and you look at how when we were watching that back in the late winter, early spring, how captivated you were to kind of get to that last episode, and where it leaves you hanging is just like I don't know how they're gonna start it
I
again
know.
and
I
and,
can't
and
wait.
grab you the same way. And then with the After Party, it's like the After Party started as like a movie
We're getting
pitch,
season
and
2 of that soon too. They have
yeah,
already started.
yeah, so there's a lot of good stuff there, and
I
and
mean, they won
obviously
Best Picture last year. Who am I
for
saying that people
Coda.
don't pay
Well, they
attention?
did. They did. I mean, if you can kind of be critical there and be like, oh well, they bought that after the fact in terms of like it played at
Sure.
Sundance,
Instead
but
of
they do.
being produced by them, yeah.
Yeah, but they do have the Martin Scorsese movie coming up, Killers of the Flower Moon.
Woo!
They have Ridley Scott's Napoleon movie with
All
Joaquin
right.
Phoenix.
What? it- That's not being released this year, no. Because I'm
No,
like,
no,
sometimes they
no.
always try to squeak in a Ridley Scott movie on like New Year's
Ridley's
Eve.
like, I'm done, guys. I'm
Like,
ready to go.
here's one that you just didn't know
No,
was
I think
coming.
that's going to be for next year. So you,
Yeah, that's
you
right.
you have a Ridley Scott movie and a Martin Scorsese from Apple. So like those are two pretty big filmmakers. I mean, even they're working with A24 to release
Which
a lot of
produced
stuff.
this, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean they released the tragedy of Macbeth last year. A teaser trailer and some production stills went out for a movie called Sharper with Julianne Moore, which is also
Yeah.
kind of a in conjunction film. So yeah, they're doing some interesting stuff, and I think their collaboration with A24 is giving some of these movies that might be harder to sell even in a
In
limited
theaters, yeah.
release a better life, and
Yeah,
one
and I
that
think
people
that
can get to.
and I think that's the perfect way of putting it, right? Like putting a positive on this kind of stuff, right? Of stuff going straight to streaming is like, yeah, even with someone like Jennifer Lawrence, like that name will sell this movie on Apple TV Plus, but would it have sold the movie in cinemas? Because it is such a like we've talked about, kind of a quieter movie that there's not like um even in a trailer or something like that, which I haven't watched the trailer for this. We were lucky enough to see it during the festival. Okay, guys, you guys should also check out Eric's interview with Lila Neugebauer, which Eric did during the festival. So you guys can go check out that on the Untitled Movie Podcast feed, or on YouTube. Just search TIFF 2022 Untitled Movie Podcast. Lila Neugebauer. I know that's a lot. Or you could just put Lila Neugebauer TIFF, and I'm sure we pop up somewhere on podcast services or on YouTube. Eric did a great little interview
Yep, cut
there.
open my finger that morning or
Oh, you
thumb.
did? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did. And you told a great story about that on our TIFF wrap up episode of the Untitled Movie Podcast as well. So go check those out. We have tons of other reviews from TIFF and not from TIFF that you guys can check out right here on this channel. We have Star Wars Tales of the Jedi review, James Gray's Armageddon Time. From TIFF, we have an After Sun review. We have The Good Nurse. We also have Black Adam, Halloween Ends, Tar, Rosaline, Amsterdam, Werewolf by Night, Fablemans, Glass Onion. There's tons. So
And
head
there will be
over.
plenty more coming.
Yeah, we're got a busy rest of the year, I'd say, because
Which is only 2 months.
I know, but like you got to think like with voting and Critics'
Yeah.
Choice and the nomination deadline being mid-December, like we're gonna be jammed the next month or so, which is gonna be kind of fun. So there will be plenty of stuff on this channel. The screenings pop every, I feel like, 2 hours, and they're all like Fast and Furious. It's like everyone, not the actual Fast and Furious movies, but on the on the last episode of the Untitled Movie Podcast, we talked about if James Gunn was the right choice for DC Studios. We also have that Black Adam podcast for episode 135, Super Mario Brothers trailer, tons of stuff. So go back and watch previous episodes there as
We'll
well.
also have a Black Panther Wakanda Forever review coming very soon when the embargo breaks or lifts.
Next week, early next week.
Yeah.
That's it, everyone. Letterboxd Untitled_movies, and you can follow me on all of those social medias if Twitter still exists by the time you listen to this, at Matt Rohrbeck.
Will you be paying for it?
No, I won't.
No, and you shouldn't.
What's the lowest? We'll talk about that on a main show another time.
I think that would be a good topic to have the discussion. But
what's the lowest amount of money you'd subscribe for?
None.
I'd still feel like you look like an idiot.
I can't give Elon Musk money.
I know.
Sorry,
I feel bad enough using the platform.
Yeah.
Anyways, plug your stuff.
You can find more of my video reviews on rogerstv.com/cinemascene and on the social medias at EM6211.
Until next time.
Brian Tyree Henry, Monologue King.